started Sistaspace a few years ago, and I thought it would be good for a way for us to come to connect, to come together to share, talk about issues relevant to our experiences, and just to have some fun with a purpose. But the aim is to affirm, heal, empower, and enlighten. Start off with a share myself, right, as a point of departure. And this is a book that I used to use in my class called Sisters of the Yam.
Oh,
Okay, and it's Black women in self-recovery. And I just thought the book was a really excellent read. And I used to use it in my class, and we sit around in a circle and go through some of the chapters. She has a chapter called Tongues of Fire. And in that chapter, she deals with how we learn how to communicate based on our early experiences in our childhood with the women in our lives and our mothers. They would talk under this whole ideal of truth-telling, but in the same time they talk to you in ways that were hurting and harmful and hypercritical. Like he said, talked about sharp-tongued women, and I thought this was important because I know a lot of women who are very sharp-tongued. Talked about harsh criticism between mothers and daughters in their relationships, and how in some of our families, some of us became objects of ridicule based on truth-telling. So there's some truth in it, but at the same time, it was hurtful. Honesty to cover up abusive practices, and then how it carried on in our lives and our relationships and how we communicate with each other. And so that's what this topic is about today.
First time in my life, probably learning how to control my tongue when it comes to relationships.
Okay.
Because it's a challenge.
And sometimes it takes a lifetime,
It does. It's a challenge.
It takes a lifetime to really learn how to control that tongue, because some of us really are real quick.
For me, I've been independent my whole life, and now it's like when you got to take somebody else into consideration, it's like, okay, just zip it. And it makes things a lot easier, but it is a challenge. I'm learning every day.
That's good. It is a challenge, but you got to look at your heart and what your heart thinks, because that's what it really starts with. Yeah, it starts with your heart.
And then how I want other people to treat me too. But it's a challenge. And it's new for me. At 62, it's new.
I was just recently in a situation where a sister had a sharp tongue at me. And she didn't think it was sharp, but it was very sharp. And, I wanted to sit down and talk to her about what she said and how she said it. And she refused to sit down and talk to me. And I found that to be so elementary. With a sister her age, she's a well-versed woman and a highly educated woman. And I was like, whoa. And then I even sent a follow-up to her asking if we can go out to lunch and talk about this. And she said no. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not feeling this. So I'd like some input on that. I thought it was quite harsh, so non-affirming. And so just looking for some.
Is this somebody in your personal, or is it professional?
Both.
Okay. I think sometimes it just depends on where people are. And so, like, the one thing that I've learned to do, and it doesn't always work, but I learned to say, okay, that's just her, right? And so don't take it personal. And so I think that's kind of how I've gone through my life. Like, just don't take many things personal unless it's meant to be personal. And sometimes it's just not personal, it's just people's way. And then you have to decide whether or not their way, it works with your way. If that's their way, then you have to make a decision about how you're going to let them be in your life.
Yeah, I do want to say that sometimes I know for myself, I feel a little shy to speak up, and I find myself coming off a little harsh because I feel like I need to almost defend myself, but I don't want to come off as a defensive person or on the offensive with people, especially if they don't really know me. But there are times when I feel like if I don't speak up and say what I need to say, then I'm gonna get run over, and I don't want that. So I need to just say I just need to say what I need to say, but it doesn't always come off the way that I wanted to, and then I feel misunderstood because of that little bit of shyness that I have, and I feel like I shouldn't have said nothing anyways. So that's, I think I know that more than myself deal with that, but as women, we've been a lot of times just kind of put in a corner and almost like children, sit there and don't speak or whatever. We could feel that way, but
Yeah.
really we're not that way inside. So
Right.
I find that in order to really get what I need, I have to speak up, but it doesn't always come out as pleasant as I think it's going to come out.
Right. I think sometimes some of us we and that's what happens for some of us. We let things build up, and then we'll come out and say something, then it sounds off. But I think so. You have on the one hand, you have those women who are more quiet and reserved, and they feel like people run over them. Then you have those other ones who are very assertive and not gonna let nobody run over them, right? And so, and it's interesting because I've heard women say things, and I know women, right, that whenever they talk, it's like they sound like they're being demanding or they're bossy. Or I had one woman I thought was going to be here today, but she was having problems on her job because when she talks, it sounds like she's bossy. But my mother would say, your mouth's going to get you in a lot of trouble. So that was me, because I'm a talker. And so, anyway, yeah. So you have like Darcel on the other hand, who feel like she comes off a certain way. And then you have some of us, that's who we are. And we just talk, but then people are hurt and offended whenever we open our mouths. Lisa?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for including me in this conversation, Patty and everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm in New York. There's a few things I think about with this topic, and I appreciate it. The original piece about being sharp-tongued, or even I feel like sometimes coming off like backhanded, negative type of thing. I was raised like that. My parents were loving and wonderful people. However, my mother, that's how she was raised. You had to do things a certain way, or you weren't doing them. Like, she would kind of say, are you going to go out of the house like that? You have to have makeup on all the time because you never know who you're going to meet. She was very old school in a lot of different ways. And so some of those things I accepted, and some of those things I bucked against. And so as I got older, I realized that what was happening for me, some of my insecurities were stirred up by some of the stuff she would say. She doesn't like me in braids, so she will never compliment me in braids. But sometimes when I take the braids out and I'll have my hair flat ironed and straight, she'll be like, oh, your hair looks great. Looks good that way. So she'll kind of letting me know, like, that's the way I think you should look. And that's nice. I appreciate it, but I'm grown, so I'm going to do what I need to do. However, I do realize that I passed on some of those things with my daughter. So some of those things that I, heard, those messages I heard, I could later on hear myself like, oh, I'm like repeating the things I said I'd never do. And so it took a long time. My daughter's 31. And so, last year I actually sat down with her and kind of apologized for some of the things I had done. I said, I did the best I could, but there's some things I could have done better. And I, apologized for managing your life, because I was the Black Hawk helicopter parent. Like, I was good at my job. And, she resented it. And she'll even say to this day, Mom, you controlled everything from picking my teachers behind the scenes to deciding whether she could go to this person's house or not that person's house. I did a lot of things I felt were loving and good, being a good parent, but she didn't look at it that way. And so we've gotten to a place of peace really now, because I like the one sister who said something like, it's not my place. It's not my business. I was that mom that even in her 20s saying, hey, by the way, you got to make your appointment with the doctors. Did you go to the dentist yet? You got to do that. And she would be like, Mom, like, really? And I was like, you're right. And so we have a really great relationship now because I've gotten to a place of peace about it. So that's it.
Okay, good. So now, what about your relationships with other women? What has been some of those experiences?
Well, Pat, like you, I've learned to understand the individual person. This is how she is. So you just adjust to because we all have different personalities. So I have learned, as far as female friends, now in a relationship, I'm still evolving. But with girlfriends, I've learned, it is what it is. And when I understand their heart, because a lot of us, we don't mean what we're saying all the time. It's how we grew up, and we're on the defense all the time.
My heart is over. I've never felt like I did anything. I can't say it. I never felt like I did anything maliciously intentionally. How many of us can say, in terms of when we're talking, where we were in terms of our heart? Did you say something off key or off whatever? Was it malicious, or was it just more you just saying it, but you don't know that you're being hurtful?
Well, I don't think it's hard. Most women are not malicious, I think it's just that being immature. But I have never done anything to people that I consider a friend out of malice. And like I said, it's in that defensive role, because that's what you're used to. And I grew up in a house full of siblings, so you're always on the defense, or either just being immature. But people that I consider a friend, I don't act out of malice. So, and over the years, I've learned to just let it be what it is going to be with people. And I try not to think that anybody that I associate myself with on a personal level is going to act out of malice, because for what?
Sometimes I do think people can be a little bit mean-spirited, just because we all have different personalities, and so we might not mean to come off that way, but it might come off that way. But I was thinking back to how, as a child, my mom would say, every time there was a little rift or a tiff in the neighborhood, she'd say, well, you should be friends with everybody, just because Patty and Nell are not talking, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be talking to Patty, or you shouldn't be talking to Nell. You should try to be friends with everybody. So that's how I grew up. I want to get along with everybody. So not that I need everybody to like me, or I need everybody to be my friend or be their friend, but I want to be a peaceable person. That was my message that I got from my mom. But I realized that as I got older and I see the way people are sometimes, it caused me to put up walls, because I couldn't really be myself. So I find that even now I operate with walls. So I have friends, but as soon as I try to say what I feel, or what I, or give an opinion that is contrary to what someone says, all of a sudden there's an issue. So it causes me to put up more walls. I'm like, well, I can't say nothing to them, so I'm not going to talk. I just won't say it. So I think that it makes me almost limit my selection of friends in terms of who I really let into my inner circle. But at the same time, I still feel like I have to keep trying.
Without being confrontational, you owe it to yourself to speak up.
Say it again.
I said, without being confrontational, you owe it to yourself to speak up. And especially at our age, you can't just always mute yourself.
Yeah.
And
I feel that way too.
You're shy, but I mean, we have to speak up and at least express, what's going on. Those people will walk over you.
Yeah, and that's why I find my my defensiveness coming in. Like, I do feel like I should have a right to say anything. It doesn't mean that I'm not, it doesn't mean we can't talk anymore. It's just an opinion. But at the same time, it makes me real shy to express it, because I don't want to run people out of my life, I guess, But I appreciate those words, Marcy. I appreciate those thoughts.
You know what? But if people really love you and they're immature, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and nobody should want to hurt you. So, and you should have a right to say things without feeling like this person might walk out of my life. And if it's like, you know what, let them walk.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're all adults. We're all adults. And, you know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
but I try to keep the peace. But we all have a right to verbalize, even in relationships. You have a right. How is somebody going to know how you're feeling inside about anything if you're not able to express it?
Right. I think the question is, though, how do you express it? And that's the real issue for a lot of us, because it's how we talk. It's not necessarily that we talk and being open and honest, but how do you be open and honest in ways that's affirming and that's not crushing, and people can, I always say, people can walk away with their dignity intact.
Well, I have gotten a lot nicer, I think. But I'm a lot more sensitive because I know how I feel. I try to really, honest to God, put myself in a position. How would I feel if this person said it to me like that, or if this person said? And I'm still as far as male-female relationship, it's still a work in progress because I have not been in that situation in so long where I had to consider somebody else's feelings all the time. But with girlfriends, I'm way more sensitive. And I'm so secure with myself. So I don't care if I even give them an extra little, I might give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, you can make it, I don't care, because I'm very secure with myself. So I don't have a problem giving somebody the edge.
I think a lot of it has to do with where we are in the mature level.
I agree.
As we grow and age and experience, we also mature, and different people are on different maturity levels.
I agree.
At the time that exchanges are made and done, and a lot of times it's a simple thing. You mean it one way, but it's how someone else receives it. And a lot of times you'll walk away having a conversation or voicing an opinion, and you'll walk away thinking that person understood it the way you meant for them to, or what you meant. And down the road, something comes up that make you realize, oh, I didn't say that. I didn't mean it. Oh yeah, remember when you said so and so and so? And then you realize, oh, I did, but that's not what I meant. But that's how they misunderstood it as to what you meant. So a lot of times, it's a lot of, we think that someone is seeing or understanding something the way we're portraying it, and they're not. I had a good example of that with my neighbor across the street. We're pretty close. And I happened to say to her, she and I both have 30 million. I say we have as many ailments as Carla got liver pills. And one day, and I cough and have cough medicine and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, girl, we were talking about coughing and hocking and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, it's just like, I said, we do all this coughing. I said, somebody would think that we were, we said something. I said, somebody would think we were coming by, would think we were drug addicts or strung out on drugs or something. I'm saying that jokingly or whatever. A month later, we're talking and she says to me, yeah, because I was really upset because you said that I was like I was a drug addict, strung out on drugs. And I said, first it took me a minute to even figure out what she was talking about. Then I realized the statement that I made, she misunderstood. I said, Kelly, I'm just joking, and we were just da 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 da. And then when I explained it and said, and she said, oh, I thought you meant that you were saying that you were calling me, a drug addict or drug head or something or other to that extent. But that really made me realize how many times we've probably said things in the same way we received things that we thought someone else meant one way, and
Absolutely.
we go off, and you never have a chance to realize. But that, I'm glad she did bring it up, because that showed me another element of level of things that we have to take into consideration sometimes, and not to get upset about it. I didn't get upset about it that she felt the way she did. I was glad she told me and gave me a chance to explain myself what I meant. So we've been able to go forward now and, you know, just go on. But it's where you are. I think if I said that to any one of you guys, you would have taken it the way that I meant it.
Exactly.
And just
It's where people
jokingly, you know, and not think anything about it to that extent, to take it that personal.
You know, especially with emailing and texting, things are not put in the same content. It's easier to, somebody can say something in the email and it could seem harsh, but it really, that's why I communicate with people more so verbally than that text and that email, because things are really not understood.
And it also depends on your journey, your life's journey, and you and tone also. A tone can come across in many different ways depending on where you are in your journey. So there are so many different variables that, you know, some are just totally out of our control because another person's perception is something different.
Exactly.
It's you know, it's different. It's difficult.
Yeah, there's sensitivity, and I always say I don't sweat the small stuff. I let stuff just ride.
I feel Darcel because I think I'm a little more like her. You know, I'm quiet, laid back. I kind of listen a lot, and then, you know, if I want to interject, I'll interject. Just recently, last month, you know, I've gone through a whole lot last month, and I forgot some things, like a very good friend of mine's birthday, and I also forgot one of my granddaughter's birthdays. That's how much I was going through stuff and how deep it was. So I call my friend the next day. I'm like, wow, I'm missing something, because I got 6 granddaughters, 4 of them are in February, and my friend. And so I called her and she wouldn't answer the phone. And I called again and called again. I called like 6, 7 times. She wouldn't answer the phone. And then I started calling her daughter. I called her husband's phone. You know, is everything all right with her? I'm wondering what's going on. And then finally, she called me back. And she said she was ticked off at me because I forgot her birthday. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I mean, I apologize severely over and over. I don't know what else to say except I'm so sorry. I've been going through a lot that I hadn't even shared with you. And she says, well, last year you were late as well. And I said, oh my God.
That's called small stuff, really.
I said, oh my gosh. So that, what I did was I said, okay, Marie, you got too much going on. You can't deal with that. So what I did is I put her in the drawer for now. You know what I mean? And I also sent her, I ordered a fan, and one of those, you know, those fans that, I don't know what you call them, they open up, big one. And I sent it to her. I said, hopefully this will help you cool off a little, because there's no more that I can do but apologize to you. And if you don't accept my apology, then I don't know what else to say. For me, if you don't accept it, well, maybe this is the end of our season. You know, this might be the end of our season. I don't know. But I thought that was so immature, childish. I mean, if you forgot my birthday, okay, so what? Things happen.
Exactly.
You know?
Some girlfriends,
like I said, people take things differently.
Okay. For their happiness. Sometimes you have girlfriends, they don't really have a lot of other people in their world, so they depend on you for their happiness.
Yeah.
I've experienced that.
Which is their issue.
Because I don't need just one person. If one person forgot to call me, or 2 people forget to call me to say happy birthday, I have so many people, I'm ducking people.
Right.
But it's sometimes we depend on other people to make us happy, which is not really. Yeah. But that does happen. In that case, she depended on you for her happiness. So she was even able to realize you didn't call her. You know, if somebody called me 3 days later, it means just as much to me.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with how old is she?
She's in her mid-70s.
Oh, mid-70s. You said your granddaughter.
Huh?
Your grandmother.
No, she was saying a friend.
A friend. She's in her mid-70s?
Mid-70s, yes.
Okay, yeah. So she probably, like you said, it depends on where you are in your life cycle. So she might be a little lonely.
Yeah, that's what it is. She doesn't have enough. So she depends on you for her joy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that resonated with me was the fact that you told her you were experiencing a lot, and it was never reciprocated that, you know, for her to even ask or to say, you know, what were you going through and how she could be a friend.
Right.
So like you said, it may very well be the end of her season. And that's okay too.
Well, not really. You don't write them off on that. You don't write them off. You just like understand their personality and give them a pat.
I put her in the drawer for now. She's in the drawer.
I love the putting in the drawer.
I like that one. I might have to have a whole discussion on that one.
I love that.
Yeah, and you can let her out one day. She'll be all right.
I think
if she's not, then you know that's the end of the season.
Well,
I think it's a good example. Go ahead, Patty.
The other thing is if you know who she is and you know what her situation is, then have empathy.
Right.
So the other thing is if she's lonely and she does depend on you, just let her go through the process. Let her go through it, and then come back. Put it in the drawer, like you said, for right now. Then she'll miss you.
Yeah, she'll get the fan this week.
But bring it up.
The fan.
That was perfect too. The fan.
And on it, I had them put, "Please charge it to my head, not my heart."
Absolutely.
Oh, good. That's good stuff. Charge it to my head.
That's perfect.
I like that.
Her were selfish.
Y'all got Patty taking notes, boy. And me too. I'm like, ooh, the draw. Charge it to my head.
Yeah, her behavior was equally as selfish, you know?
Yeah.
At a certain age, you really have time for it. Really.
A certain age, what?
You don't really have the time for that. There's so much going on in our lives. It's so hard for me to take a time out to placate somebody's, you know, insecurities. It's really kind of difficult sometimes. And like you said, you got to ask myself, how important is this relationship to me?
Exactly.
I think the other thing too, I think about with this is that we don't really know what's going on for people. You know, so sometimes we take something personally. We don't really know, like Marie says, oh, there's all this stuff going on. She forgets somebody's birthday. It's not intentional. We're not mean-spirited people. You know, we're not trying to do it on purpose. But I think sometimes I don't really know what somebody's going through. But sometimes, like if they say something or just come off a certain way, I don't want to walk away and have what happened to Nell a month later go, you know, Nell, a month ago you said this and I was really angry. I don't let stuff sit like that for me.
Right.
I really have to deal with it right away within the day, because otherwise I don't want to cause resentment and I'm spinning about it, I'm thinking about it. It's just not worth it. And I don't know what's going on for people. So for me to just go around and say, hey Marie, you know, I just want to mention you forgot my birthday. I was a little upset at first, but I realized that, you know, we're friends. I know you didn't do it on purpose. And then for you to say, well, I got a lot of stuff going on. Oh, well, what's going on for you? You know, how can I help you out? You know, that's being friends. You know, and you know, I'm not saying that person's not that. She's in her 70s. I get it. However, I think we just don't know what people are going through. We got to be kind to each other, be supportive of each other.
You know,
I think that is so true, because a lot of us got a lot of stuff going on the inside. And particularly self-esteem issues that really we thought that we had got through. Like being older, you thought you had got through a lot of stuff, right? And then somebody will say something or do something and it triggers it, right? And you're like, oh my God, I thought I was over that, or I thought I had got through that. And because I'm going through it myself now, I mean, self-esteem issues was never an issue for me until now, right? That I knew of. I know I probably had some self-esteem, but I didn't know I had them, right? Because I was too busy to even think about it. But now that I'm got slowed down, it's like, oh my God, you're tripping over everything, right? And so now you realize that other people got a lot of stuff going on the inside that gets triggered, just a lot of self-esteem issues around a whole lot of things that we don't even know about.
And we all do.
Right. We all do. And so now somebody who's upset over a birthday, it just means something else. It might not even be the birthday, something else is going on, right? In terms of nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, nobody thinks about me. I thought she would think about me, but she didn't even think about me. You know, as you feel alone, you're getting older, you're by yourself. So all that stuff starts to gets in there, and it starts just going around the circle. And then as you get older, you start reminiscing, keep playing it over and over and over in your head.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like I said before, it's like about empathy, just trying to say, okay, I see, and all that. How many times have you walked around being mad or holding something, right? And then realize nobody even thought about it. People walking around mad and holding things, and nobody even thinking about it. Ain't nobody thinking about it but you. So you're walking around with all that bad energy.
Yeah, that's true.
And, talking to them 2 months later because you're mad and they don't know you're mad.
Right.
You talk to them 2 months later and you're like, oh, they didn't even know. So now you got all that negative energy that you're holding on to. And people do it to you.
Yeah. I've had people mad at me and I'm like, I didn't even know they were mad. I didn't even know they were. Oh, you were mad at me? I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize you weren't calling me because you were pissed. I mean, get over it. You have so much positive energy. When you release it, you don't do it for the other person. You do it for yourself.
Exactly.
You do it for you.
That's it.
And for you to be in a healthy mind space and place, that's the gift.
That is
So tomorrow is, I came out of church today, a young woman, 54 years old. My mother let me go and help her mother change her diapers. Came out of church today, found out she died last night. So we waste so much time and energy on nonsense when to be angry with someone and carry it around for months, that works for your spirit, not theirs, because they don't even know. So it's like you said, it's all small stuff.
It's small stuff.
You said it. You said it. To forgive yourself in many of those situations,
and especially have a good heart.
Yeah, even when when I was married and my husband did some terrible things and so on and so forth, and I carried around that anger for years and years and years, until this one lady came to me and she said, "Marie, you've got to forgive yourself." And I'm like, "Forgive myself? I didn't do anything. He did it." Da 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 da. And then I realized that I had to forgive myself for holding that for so long. I couldn't move on.
Yeah.
Until I did it.
Yeah.
So, Carla, you were right. That is so true. You have to forgive yourself. So when I get in those situations where I'm holding something in, I'm like, okay, Marie, you got to move on. So you got to forgive yourself for waiting long to forgive yourself. So I agree.
I just have to say that holding on to anger and holding on to stuff really will make you sick. Like, when you can do that.
Absolutely.
As you get older, just like anything, any negative thought you can't even do negative thought. Anger starts to make you feel sick.
Yeah.
So you have to let all that stuff. You got to let it go because it definitely makes you ill. It can make you ill. And it manifests in different ways and different kinds of illnesses.
And it may not be today. It manifests itself. It can take years. I lost my husband in July. Will be 4 years, and
so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And in April of last year, I decided to reclaim my joy. I walked into a CVS and between the mask and the kufi and glasses, you couldn't see who I was. And thank God, because I walked by something, don't have a clue what it was, but I broke out into tears. And at that moment, I said, you know what?
That's it.
I can't do this anymore. The pain in my stomach has got to go. I've got to reclaim my joy. And so I had done counseling, but I went on this retreat, a weekend retreat about grief and loss. Don't know how, but I came out on the other side. And I'm not where I should be, but I'm on my way.
That's right. You're
Right.
not where you need to be.
It's not about the other people. It's about us. And
That's
how
right.
Exactly.
that all the little things will eat you up. He's in somewhere else and in a different place, experiencing joy.
Whatever he's enjoying.
Here, not. So we have to change our mindset, because like Patty said, all kinds of things will eat away at you. And 5 years from now, that's the source of some kind of cancer that has been growing in my system because I haven't let go, so, and it's not easy, but it's doable.
So the last question I have, just I can put out there, is how we express ourselves when we feel hurt and disappointed. Because some of us just do the flip out. I know back in the day we used to do the flip out, right? Flip, just come, do somersaults and and all that and everything. So how do we? Yeah, I mean, I had a moment when I was in the bank and the guy wouldn't tell me we couldn't get the money out of the bank, and I actually literally saw myself doing somersaults down the hall. Right. You see yourself, I'm about to do somersaults down. Right. You told me I can't get my money, right? So I just like to put out there, how do we express ourselves when we feel hurt and disappointed, and then the strategies for expressing ourselves in ways that are positive, shouldn't destroying them. Darcel,
I'm personally learning, honestly, how to humble myself and be somewhat submissive to people, like giving them the benefit of the doubt. I really try. It's a work in progress, but I swear I am trying. Like I take the blame. I do a lot more than I used to do.
Marcy know that was coming right for her, right? Because I know you do the flip shit.
That's growing.
And that's when I said spaz, because we used to spaz out.
Just do the flip out.
Learned, Pat, you'd be so proud of me. I barely, because I'm like, oh man, the big world, it's so irrelevant, in the real big world. In my world, it's like, I got so much other more important stuff to worry about, because this too shall pass. Whatever it is, I'm like, in a few minutes, it's going to be over and it's not going to bother me. So why should I sit here and, I try not to get my blood boiling. Sometimes people really take you there, but like, I think 90% of the times I have come a long way. 10%, there's that 10%, I got to be me. But I am
all works in progress. So
growing up.
Marcy always talking about, I'm growing up now. I'm growing up.
I am growing up.
Finally,
I'm growing up, and I'm like especially proud of myself because I know where I've come from.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Darcel wanted to say something. Okay.
A lot of times, as we grow, we think when we were in our 20s, and especially rebelling against home and parents and getting out on our own, because we feel we know so much and we know more than they know. You thought. Then you get your 30s and 40s, and you look back and you said, I was so dumb. I didn't know nothing at what I thought I felt like I knew at 23. When you get 60, you look back and say, oh my God.
Who cares?
Even in my 50s, I didn't know half as much as I know.
Exactly. You realize how much is still growing. You're like, wow, I thought I knew that.
Every decade, you just thought, and I look at now, the best you can do is do your best that you can do each day. Try to accept how people are. Try to have patience and try to work that in with, some of us come with patience. Some of us don't. But either way, it's about allowing the other person to feel like you value their opinion or you value their feelings. I think it was Maya Angelou that says, some people will not remember what you said or what you did.
Right, exactly.
Always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's kind of like my motto in the day that I try to go by.
But now, me too. I really, honestly, God, most days, whenever I'm like, I really try to treat people how I want to be treated. And we all know what would hurt us. So I feel like if this would hurt me, it's hurt them. So I really I try to honestly try to understand what my behavior might do and how it makes somebody else feel.
Okay.
I just know I don't take a lot like I did in the 50s and the 60s.
Okay.
It's like, okay, no, I don't have it's like you have the patience, but you don't. You have the patience to be able to stop and say, I don't have the patience, I'm moving on. But not let it bother you and dwell in that spot. And you moving on to keep from allowing yourself to get pulled in, as well as sparing what you might say or do to someone else. So you politely, or I politely say, all right, good seeing you, take care, we'll talk again soon. And
you know what? That's why self-love is important, because when you care about yourself, you really learn how to not really worry about what other people are feeling, thinking about you. And I know I'm a good person, so if somebody's misinterpreting something for me, I'm like, I know with my heart, God knows my heart. So self-esteem, all of that comes into play too, because it's like, well, if that's the way you want to feel, keep it moving,
Yeah.
But I do try to be nice. My first attempt is to be kind.
I think I'm kind too.
Yeah.
I think I am.
Oh, I think I'm kind.
My friend told me last week that I was passive aggressive. I said, what? I'm passive and aggressive? I said, wow, I've never been,
sometimes I feel like that, Marie. I tell myself, I'm like, you got played. And I allow people to play me more than I've ever allowed people to play me. I'm like, well, damn, this nice girl, you just got played. Yeah. But, and that
it's okay to get played sometimes.
It is. I don't care because you have self-esteem. I really don't care because I love being with me. So if somebody else don't want to be with me, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to hear from Darcel. Wanted to say something.
I was actually going to say that I think that
it's cute.
Well, honestly, I forgot the question, but
I remember because you're so quiet.
What I was going to say.
You said you were quiet and shy.
Whatever you want to say, whatever the question is. Just say what you need. Oh, the question was like how do we respond when we feel hurt, disappointed? What are strategies to respond?
Okay. That's right. So I was holding the answer in my mind, but I was like, I don't know if that's the right answer because I forgot the question. But yes, for me, I have been going over this even lately because I want to try to deal with it differently. I shut down and I run away and I block. I'm like, talk to the hand. I ain't there. Shut it down. And I realized that that's not a healthy way of coping with stuff.
Well, sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is, but sometimes it does more harm to me than it does a person. Because if I just choose not to say anything and it needs to be said in order to avoid the confrontation, I shut it down and just lock it out. But I realize I can't, that's not a healthy way to go forward for the rest of my life. I can't do that like that because it doesn't feel good to me. So that's me. But I know that it's not, I know it doesn't always necessarily work. Not always.
Yeah. Anybody else in terms of strategies because one of the things I do, like if I, first of all, you're at a place where if you don't work it out, it keeps playing in your head, right? And I'm like, that's just not happening. So one of the things I'll do is if I'm not sure how I want to approach something, then I'll sleep on it, right? And then I'll just go to sleep on it and then go to dreamland. Let dreamland give me the answer.
Yeah,
right.
That's healthy.
Yeah. The other thing is sometimes somebody will say something and it'll piss you off right there, right? You start racing, you start bawling, and then, I'll be like, okay, just breathe. You just gotta breathe. Just breathe. Calm down, breathe. don't.
And you know
Yeah.
what, Pat, what I'm learning to do is not cuss.
But that's the big thing I was.
Huh?
But that was the big thing. Is like, have you learned how to?
I said hallelujah.
I've learned not, if I just don't curse, if I don't just go and curse and start cursing somebody out, I'm just like, I just learned how to zip it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big move, because, you know, I mean, my first thing was just, you know, go at it, like perfection. But I'm grown up.
Maybe we get into our 60s and we're a little more seasoned. You know, we really don't care, because as long as you know what your energy was trying to put out, then it's okay. And as long as you weren't trying to be, you know, malicious. But I often think now, there's so many things to be grateful for. Just the fact of getting up in the morning, you know, is the blessing. And so all the other stuff is just crap. And it holds too much energy and too much space. So you let it go. I always try to think about my gratitude, what I'm grateful for, and know that if I do my best, that's all I can do.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, even with your family members, you have to learn to breathe and say, okay, you know what, God, guide my tongue, because sometimes it does its own thing. But and I always I'm thankful that, one, I'm a work in progress. He is not done with me yet. So all I can do is do my best at the minute that I'm in. And sometimes my best may not be always good enough, but at least I've given a valiant effort.
And we're trying. We're trying.
That's all you've got, you know. That's all you've got.
I ain't no killer, but don't push me.
But anyway, anybody else have anything you want to end this on or share as we close this out?
Hi, Dr. Patricia. I've been quiet most of the time, and I just wanted to address, I believe Marie was saying that there's based on a book that you've written. I believe it's called something about sister wives. That's how I
Okay.
familiar with your work. Something I've been working on in my personal journey, trying to you know, curb my tongue. I don't even want to say curb, but just make my communications more positive. And I've been trying to use, they call it the sandwich approach. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with that.
Okay.
But that's what I've been using in trying to make my communications with others affirming. And I'm from New York City, and I'm in my early 40s.
Okay. You said you want to tell us what the sandwich approach is, because I don't know what that is.
Oh, so basically when you're talking to someone about something that you feel might be negative, you don't start with the negative first. You sandwich it. So you start with something positive, enlighten them about, you know, maybe something that I'll use an example. I'm a registered nurse, and I started a pandemic business where I go to transplant patients' homes and draw their blood work. I had a older transplant patient that was very angry with me because I was running late. I was stuck in traffic, and I asked her to hold off on taking her medicine until I came because it would affect the blood results. So she did do that, and then her day went on, but her alarm went off already. That would have reminded her to take her medicine. So she called me and cussed me out. And I said to her, I listened to her, and I said, you know, this is a learning opportunity for me, you know. And I started off with the positive. I said to her, you know, I'm happy that you pointed this out to me. I could use this to help others. So I told her that from now on, if I'm running late with someone, when I'm finishing with them, I will remind them, hey, you know, please remember to take your medicine now. Sorry that I was late. You know, I'll affirm the negative. Sorry that I was late, and I'm sorry that I made you upset. And then you sandwich it again with something positive. So then I sandwich that in with something else that was positive. And she and I have been best friends since. So I try to use the sandwich approach when I'm dealing with difficulties like that.
Okay, I like that. I'm gonna have to figure out how to use it. I have to go and look it up because I'm not really, I still got some of what you said, but I didn't get all of what you said. Ms. B, you want to share it? Oh, okay.
No, I was just gonna say it's good, bad, good. Good, bad, good.
Oh, good, bad, good.
Exactly. Good, bad, good.
I think that's one of the biggest, for some of us, that's one of the greatest growth things is learning how to talk to people and how to take their stuff and spin it and try to still stay on the positive. That's huge for some of us in terms of how we have grown to be able to do it. Huge. And I think being in certain relationships with your children and with your husband, if you really want to respect him, that just forced you to grow and figure out how to do this stuff in a positive way. So I like the sandwich approach. I'm gonna have to take that approach. Anybody else want to share anything before we close this out? I feel like I have a lot to share, in terms of this. I first of all, being up in the life cycle, right? So we have a lot of experiences. And then I used to teach a class on women, so I'm real clear about the politics of being a Black woman in America. And so, you just feel like you just want to share the information, because when you're in academia, you're just in a classroom, you're dealing with the people in your classroom, but you want to take the stuff to the broader community. And so, I just feel like I just want to, share what I know, and then we bring other women in to share what they know. And then we can help, first of all, it'd be a good place for us to come together, just to do something together, just to have fun and talk. But the other thing is to share the wisdom with the other women in our communities. And one more thing, I just wanted to read this here at the end of, we talked about everything. I knew that was gonna happen, that's Black women. We're just gonna talk about whatever comes to our heart. But she says here, and she has one here, she talks about having silenced a negative voice within and replaced it with loving, caring criticism. Is also important for Black women to practice speaking in a loving, caring manner about what we appreciate about each other. Such an action makes it evident to all observers of our social reality that Black women deserve care, respect, and ongoing affirmation.
Thank you, Class. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.